Hello, Dr. Reyes. So I've done a lot of reflecting about the topic of transformative intellectual knowledge, and here's some of my thoughts. First, I'll admit that world language teachers are some of the greatest, if not kind of poorly intentioned, well-intentioned purveyors of the sprinkle of culture on top of curriculum idea of diversity and multicultural education. To address question 3, I really want to focus on the idea of storytelling as a way of building identity as part of my classroom curriculum. This is a deeply rooted concept in many cultures, perhaps none more so than the different Spanish-speaking communities around the world and the Spanish-speaking communities here in the US. I think of genres like folk stories, cuentos, corridos, even the daily ubiquitous genre of chisme, and how these all help us build and communicate identity. The transformative intellectual knowledge here comes from the marginalized framework surrounding narrative, the idea of positionality and perspective. This is a really high-level concept that we are learning in these texts that for a lot of people like myself and my peers, is quite new, but is embodied very straightforwardly and very naturally by these communities. There is rarely a truth, and the truth you do find is filtered and framed by you, the people you talk to, their positionality, your positionality, the languages you speak in total, the languages you're speaking in the conversation, the way you embody these things, it's all relative. I want to move away from kind of piecemeal, prescriptivist views of culture and language and move to something that is more descriptive, that talks about Spanish as a transnational language and observe it perhaps as it is manifested in the immigrant populations here in the US to understand how language functions, how a language, for example, can be a living tool of a contemporary community for creating bonds, fortifying community, building new communities, taking down structures of oppression, see how language actually functions. In regards to question 4, I will admit that I am probably one of the most insecure kind of perfectionist folks in the cohort. I have had to confront a lot of things about myself. Primarily, I grew up in a very, very segregated and white area. I share very little identity and, in many cases, life experience with my students. So I have had to stop and slow down to get to know them in meaningful ways that weren't just the kind of pastiches or stereotypes that I hold about them that kind of framed who they are. I, especially for my challenging students, have had to pause and really reflect on what they did, what their motivations could be, and how I can help them. There's also been a lot of challenges for me around admitting I'm wrong, and finding ways to do reparative work with my students, build back bridges, build new bridges, and be humble enough to do so in that regard. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate this course, and I hope you have a great day.